Oki, international journalist and moderator of the NABJ.
Good morning, Symposium. So nice to see you. We are going to be spending a day together, so if you turn to your right and say hello. Turn to your left and say hello, don't want to be rude. Excellent. All right. Now we are ready to do some work. I am going to be your facilitator through today, and a couple of things, a couple of business bits and pieces I have to do before we really get down to business. If you have a mobile or smart device or a dumb device, if it makes noise, make it not make any noise. Put it on vibrate. Don't turn it off, because it needs to do some work. The hashtag for our conversation today is #GlobalAg. So you will need that to spread the word of what's happening in this room to the rest of the world. If you want your colleagues, your friends, anywhere outside of this room to be part of this conversation, you can actually tweet them. You can tell them that it's also being streamed. And then you can share the wisdom, the advice, the problem solving with the rest of the world as well. So, we have to get down to business. I would like to introduce you to a president who you may know as a former NATO ambassador, but he is particularly Twitter famous. He is famous for a stream of 9 tweets where he told a particular DC resident how exactly NATO works. Now, if he can do that in 9 tweets, he can probably do anything. The president of the Chicago Council on Global Affairs, Ivo Daalder.
Thanks, Femi. If that's what I will be known for the rest of my life, that'd be fine with me. But here, I want to welcome you to this morning to our Global Food Security Symposium. As many of you know, the Council is an independent, nonpartisan membership organization that is committed to educating the public and influencing the public discourse on global issues of the day. We're very proud of our work on food security, which has been a major focus of the Council since 2008. We've convened this particular symposium since 2010. Our purpose is been for all those years to bring together leaders from across sectors to talk about how we can move the needle forward in the quest for global food security. Because we're based in the Midwest, a home to many of you as growers and you as agri-food businesses, and because food insecurity is one of the most pressing and important issues facing America and the world today, the Council on Global Affairs is committed to convening studies, dialogues, task forces, and this symposium to foster understanding and support for global agricultural development and food security. For those of you who've joined us in the past, the last few years has afforded us an opportunity to dive a little deeper into some of the most important themes in relation to food security, such as climate change, nutrition, urbanization, and how they relate to agriculture around the world. This year, we thought we'd take a step back, reflect on the progress that has been made to date, the unfinished agenda to achieve food and nutrition security, and the rationale for American leadership on this issue in the ever-changing world. It's unfortunate that on the 10-year anniversary of the global food price crisis of 2007, a new crisis has caused significant damage, one that spurred a major global response to address it that we are now today facing in the threat of famine in 4 countries and the needs of 70 million people around the world for food assistance. It is unacceptable that the threat of famine still exists in our world today, or that chronic hunger persists in the 21st century. It shows us that while there is progress to be proud of, which we will highlight as well today, we are still far from where we want and need to be. Today's conversation, therefore, comes at a very critical time, not just because of these emergencies, but also because there are important debates underway here in our nation's capital that will affect continued American engagement in the world, including, importantly, on this very issue. America has a great tradition of responding to food insecurity around the world. This is the case not because we feel it is morally compelled to do so, though we do. It is because on both sides of the aisle, our leaders in Congress and the White House have understood that a food-secure world creates new economic opportunity at home and makes America and the world far safer. Now, this leadership is not possible without the full complement of the many expert staff, the State Department, the USAID, of the Agricultural Department, and many others around the globe. They are serving American interests and working to realize important priorities alongside American companies, NGOs, and government allies around the world. Without full support and investment, not only will progress on food security be at risk, we risk ceding our seat at the table where important conversations are underway on how to address these issues, missing opportunities where we might otherwise advance American interest and our values. For this reason, we are happy to provide a platform for this important conversation here today. We will expect robust debate, innovative thinking, and perhaps some inspiration. And we're happy to have expanded the scope of our event for the first time, hosting several solution sessions yesterday. And I want to thank all of you who participated in that, our participants and speakers who joined us in person and online to make yesterday such a great success. Now, before we begin, we must, of course, acknowledge those who make this event possible. Most importantly, our funders. I want to start to thank the businesses that invest in the Council and in our work. We are grateful for our lead sponsors, Abbott, Syngenta, and United Technologies, and our supporting sponsors, Cargill, DuPont Pioneer, Lana Lakes, and RTI International. In addition to sharing their expertise, many of our sponsors make multi-year investments in the Council's global food security work, and it is their sustained support that makes an event like this possible. We're also partnering with a wide variety of institutions around the country and around the globe who provide insight and expertise to the work we do, and promote our online engagement of this event and our work, and in some cases provide images and other content in kind. To our partners, we are grateful for your partnership and your support. I also want to acknowledge our student delegation in the audience, called our Next Generation Delegates. Could I please ask the students who are here with us, and I hope all of them are, to stand so you can be recognized. It's great to have you here. These competitively selected students come from around the world to participate in our Agriculture Leaders of Tomorrow. We're extremely grateful for you being here and for everything that you are and will be doing. We also have student rapporteurs capturing yesterday's solution sessions, and there are several students joining us via live stream as social media ambassadors around the world. These students will be tweeting throughout the event, and we appreciate you helping us to create a lively dialogue, not only in this room, but online. The Council, as always, is extremely grateful to the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation for its significant and longstanding support of our work. We couldn't do what we do without you, so we are grateful for that. And finally, I want to acknowledge the independent task force that developed this year's report, members of the project's advisory group who also shaped and supported our findings, and Dan Glickman and Doug Bereuter, who co-chaired both groups. We are deeply grateful to all of you and for your contributions. At this point, I'm proud to announce the release of our report, Stability in the 21st Century, Global Food Security, and Peace and Prosperity, by cueing a video summary of key findings. Following that, our Director for Global Food and Agriculture, Alesha Black, will be joining the stage. Thank you very much.
Eliminating global hunger is within our reach, and agricultural development is at the heart of the effort. Global poverty is decreasing. Chronic hunger is falling, and agricultural production is rising. All this is promising, but with 700 million people still living in poverty and nearly 800 million who are chronically hungry, there's still a long way to go, with many challenges on the horizon. Global population is projected to reach almost 10 billion by 2050, with the population becoming younger and more urban. And with changing weather and a decreasing natural resource base, feeding the world will be difficult. Now more than ever, we must double down on our commitment to agricultural development and food security. This commitment will have widespread benefits, and not just for those who need more food and healthier diets. Investing in agriculture and food security is good for business. Greater prosperity and economic growth in low-income countries creates new and expanding markets, locally, nationally, and globally. In Africa alone, the value of the agriculture and food sector is expected to reach $1 trillion by 2030. The agriculture sector is the largest supplier of jobs, employing 40% of the global workforce. And food insecurity is tied to instability, violence, and migration challenges facing the world. To continue to advance food and nutrition security in this changing world, we need everyone at the table: government leaders, research institutions and universities, businesses, financiers, and entrepreneurs, philanthropy and civil society, multilateral institutions, and the U.S. government with its allies must continue its legacy of commitment to ending hunger and malnutrition around the world. The Chicago Council on Global Affairs report, Stability in the 21st Century, Global Food Security for Peace and Prosperity, recommends 4 key policy actions by the U.S. government. 1. Make global food security and nutrition a pillar of U.S. national security. 2. Prioritize public research investment to unlock innovation and harness new technology. 3. Amplify the power of the private sector to transform food security and nutrition. 4. Support countries' capacity to implement food security and nutrition policies. Let's work together to solve the world's biggest challenges and end global hunger once and for all.
Hi, good morning. Welcome. I'm Alesha Black. As Ivo said, I'm the director of the Global Food and Agriculture Program at the Chicago Council. And we're so pleased to be here with all of you here in DC, the rest of the country, and around the world on social media. The summary you just watched compresses a much richer full report now available on your chairs or online for download. We made the executive summary available last night so that people living and working in regions of the world facing food and nutrition insecurity in its most severe forms have a chance to be part of the dialogue. Tweets from around the world that we've collected will start scrolling on the side screens throughout the day. Today we'll be discussing serious and even daunting issues. You've already heard some: security threats, chronic food insecurity, and even famine. The reality that 1 in 4 children around the world is still stunted, permanently impacted physically and cognitively. But if you pay attention, you might also hear a good news story woven throughout the challenging narrative, and that's what I want to highlight. As the video showed, we are making progress. Poverty and hunger have been consistently trending downward for decades, faster in some phases and slower in others. And the US has been a significant character in this unfolding story, and not by an accident. As far back as the early days of World War II, our leaders instinctually acted on and the evidence now supports that a food-secure world is a safer world, including for Americans, and that as people move out of poverty and have additional income, they become new customers, including for Americans. Sustained investments in global agricultural development have been good for the world's poorest regions, and the evidence shows it's also been good for the US. Recent years have shown dramatic growth in US exports to sub-Saharan Africa, South Asia, and the Middle East, so much so that these regions are estimated to constitute 34% of all agricultural exports in 2017 by the Congressional Research Service. And markets in these countries are large enough also for local producers who must increase production to keep these populations fed. Since these smallholder farmers are among the poorest in the world and often suffer food insecurity, their increased prosperity will in turn drive further economic growth in rural areas and far beyond. It's an actual example of a virtuous cycle, a true win-win. And while each president and Congress has found different ways to contribute in alignment with their policy priorities, they have all found it does align to American priorities. I want to ask Doug Bereuter, who has served as co-chair of our program since 2013, to join me on stage. A native of Nebraska, Doug served as a Republican member of the House of Representatives from 1979 to 2004, and also as a member of as the president and CEO of the Asia Foundation from 2004 to 2010. Doug, thank you for joining me on the stage. Can we have a round of applause for Doug?
Good morning, everyone. So glad you could join us.
Great. So I wanted to ask you, as co-chair of the report, you've been instrumental in shaping the recommendations that we've been putting forward for many years. Now feels like a contentious time politically in the US and in many places around the world. I want to ask you, why do you think food security should be a non-controversial priority?
I wouldn't go so far as to suggest it's non-controversial. Nothing that approaches the Congress of substance is non-controversial. However, I am very optimistic for a variety of reasons. One, I take heart in the fact that the Global Food Security Act of 2016 was passed with an 87% vote in the House of Representatives. Did you hear that right? And without objection in the Senate. Secondly, I think that food security as a national security issue really can have bipartisan support. It's one of the things I would expect would have bipartisan support in this Congress. Third, I just think that the proposed budget cuts by the administration for state and USAID, frankly, are so draconian that there is a backlash against it. I have been on the Hill a lot, and Dan Glickman has as well. We've gone together from House and Senate members, both sides of the aisle, and we've seen this reaction. That we're going to assert ourselves as a Congress and do what we're supposed to do on appropriations and authorization actions. Finally, I wanted to mention that I think something very interesting has happened in that joining full force to the coalition of people that support food security issues are our military leaders. This letter of February 27th came from 121 3- and 4-star general officers and admirals. They said, look, diplomacy and development have to keep pace with defense. It's in our national interest to do that. This is not a time to retreat. That's a paraphrasing what they said. And one of those individuals, 121 that signed, retired officers, is going to be with us in a panel here today, John Castellaw, a lieutenant general retired from the Marine Corps. So those are reasons why I'm pretty optimistic about re-extending the authorization, but also a reasonable appropriation for the upcoming year.
Great. Thank you for that reflection. Thank you for everything you've done for our program, and I will turn the stage over for you for our next
Thank you.
introduction.